Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us both online and in person. For today's presentation, we're very excited to feature a promising company out of the artificial intelligence space, VSBLTY. We're joined by CEO Jay Hutton, who will be providing a corporate overview as well as sharing some of the exciting initiatives that the company has in store in the foreseeable future. Please be aware that there are cameras situated around the room, as this is a live webcasting to a large online audience. And also we ask that you please keep all your questions until the end, as we'll be happy to address them at that point. Without any further ado, I'll pass it on to Jay.
Thank you. Well, I'm not worried about the cameras. I mean, as a guy involved in artificial intelligence, it's become part of my life, I think. Cameras are everywhere. Understand, cameras are everywhere. And there's more of them coming. And no small participation due to us, actually. So thank you for the opportunity to talk to you guys. I had the opportunity of spending some time with young Jacob for the day and a half, and we've seen most of Toronto. I have discovered, though, that most of Toronto is like 5 square blocks. It's like Vancouver. It's very, very convenient, yeah. Were we doing this in New York, we'd be in cabs, and we'd be uptown, we'd be downtown and midtown, and it would be totally different. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the weather. So one of the things that I've done as we've done these various presentations, I like to do my best to identify analogies that kind of make sense. And you know what, the disclaimer I give this specific analogy is that I am not setting the bar for visibility in any sort of obscene way that would offend most of the audience. But if you look at what Google was in 1990, again, not comparing us to Google in any form or fashion, but their model is interesting and has a corollary or an interesting application to what we're doing right now. What Google did, probably more successfully, you could argue more successfully than anybody on the planet, is they understood that the internet was a monetizable medium. So Google figured out how to value impressions on the internet. And the way they figured it out, a lot of people think it's because of search. It's not about search. Google is search for sure. But search as a means to an end, search as a means to discovery. And so that track, what they did more importantly or more aggressively or more capably than anybody is they understood how to measure and monitor impressions. So the key word there is measurement. Google turned the internet into a measurement medium. And if you remember one thing about visibility more than anything else is we're doing exactly that to physical spaces. So we're using computers, computer vision, and machine learning to teach computers how to interpret spaces. What's happening in the space from a security point of view, what's happening in the space from a marketing point of view, all of that sort of correlated and delivered into a big data format so that it can be digested and turned into insights for brands. The marketplace that we focused on principally, though not exclusively, is retail. And retail, if you use, again, the same analogy to Google, retail is a superior environment to deliver measurement because in retail, if you get promotion delivered to you in retail, you're at a place where you can act on that. You can buy a product. And on the internet, you could argue Amazon Prime has solved that problem, but it's still a delayed fulfillment. In retail, you can actually act on that. And so we deliver to retail spaces impressions that are measured. And we'll talk a little bit about how we do that. Oh. Okay, down. Got it. I'm going to zip forward to the how does visibility transform spaces. There are multiple components to our technology. We have digital display, and we sell this in discrete software modules. That's on purpose, and we'll talk a little bit about why we do that in a moment. The first thing is visual display, and it's no more sophisticated than taking a digital screen of various types, and we certify specific platforms, taking out a digital display and providing information. Not just static information that sort of you view once and then you walk away, but also interactive information like menus and recipes and cocktails and those sorts of things that you can imagine would be interesting in a retail environment. The punchline in retail is that brands want to buy retail spaces like they buy the internet today. And the reason why they want to vector, if you follow the way ad spend has happened over the past 30 years, you'll know that broadcast has almost dried up completely. Print is nearly dead, mostly because those ad dollars have gone to the internet. Why have they gone to the internet? Because the internet has accountability. Internet has measurement. Internet has ROI. So if you're a brand guy responsible, or gal, responsible for $800 million in budget, you're not going to get fired by buying the internet because there's demonstrable measurement, there's ROI. What if we could take that same accountability and apply it to physical spaces? Now retail becomes an attractive place just because it's attractive to begin with, because it's a place where fulfillment can occur. What if we took that ability to drive impressions into retail that had the same level or better accountability as the internet? And that's what visibility is. And really among the pioneers. So the components. Digital display, the software that governs what happens on the display. It's kind of a crowded marketplace, but it's an interesting and a complete component of our offering. The second most compelling piece of our market is teaching cameras how to interpret their surroundings. We look for specific metrics. We look for age. We look for gender. We look for dwell time. We look for emotion on 8 different gradients of emotion. All of this, and dwell time, eye tracking, do I look upper left or lower right? All of this information correlated and delivered to a brand in a way that creates demonstrable ROI. So the visual display is one thing. It's used with interactivity. Brands want intimacy. They want to engage you in an engagement with the brand. If you do that, you're worth more than a passing ad impression. You're worth more than just a passing person. If you engage and I can track attention, I'm actually, not only is this ad displayed, but I'm paying attention to it. We track that and we deliver that to a brand. Now we're coming into a place where there's an ROI. Now we're a reasonable competitor to the internet in terms of a place where ad dollars can be spent. This is an enormous marketplace. It's at 2% penetration in retail today and is going considerably north of that. Our marketplace is not seeking a problem to be solved. There's a problem. We've identified a solution. The technology has been validated. The market's been validated. The model has been validated. There's no more conjecture or question about this marketplace as a category. It is happening right now. And really in the next several years, it's going to happen from 2% to some other number, but certainly significant. The components, digital display, camera technology powered by CPU, and algorithms running either locally or on the edge. All of that driven under an umbrella that delivers a brand new value proposition in retail. And the proposition is not delivered to the retailers. They're not the people paying the freight. The people paying the freight are the big brands who have been desperate to buy in-store digital for years and haven't been able to. So instead, they spend their money on the internet for the reasons we've just discussed. I'd like to talk a little bit about the management team, highlighting a few specific individuals because it's important that you understand that we've got the ability to make it happen. Tim Huckabee is among the top 50 developers in the world. He's on the Microsoft International Science Steering Committee. So it's not surprising that we're very tightly coupled with Microsoft. We're deep in the Microsoft ecosystem and very close to a point at which, and this is Nirvana from the acronym in our business is ISV, Independent Software Vendor. We're an ISV. And Nirvana for us, when we really made it, is when the Microsoft people, the sales people, can sell your product, they can get quota retirement, and they can get commission on it. And we're weeks away from that. So it takes a long time to get there. You got to go through a bunch of processes. You got to have all the boxes checked, but that's important for us and will represent a significant opportunity for us because now you have 13,000 Microsoft people selling for you, which of course is something you could never get elsewhere. So Tim represents that, and we sort of get the technical compliance because of Tim's presence. Fred Potok, my co-partner in founding this company, was the inventor of floor graphics. You could call that the analog variant of what we're doing today. You've seen these. They may or may not have impressed you, but they work. They are digital displays, not digital displays, analog displays, printed displays that go on the ground of a retail, and they might be in front of the Tide detergent, and they promote the Tide detergent. It's interesting, human beings are kind of predictable. In retail, we don't look up, we look down. So the most valuable shelves in a retail, when brands are trying to position their product, are the shelves right at eye level and below, but not above. People don't look up, they look down. I don't know, we're shy, maybe? But they invented floor graphics, which is the category. That went from 0 to 70 million in 2 years. Of course, he has an enormous database of contacts, and he's been a partner of ours since the beginning of the company. Linda Rosanio, my other co-founder, she ran a $100 million shopper marketing firm. People don't know what shopper marketing is, but shopper marketing that's where big brands go to figure out their strategy to get into retail. So I really can't elect a smarter, more intelligent partner. I'm a software guy, I've been in software all my life, but I'm not a retail guy. I would argue I'm more of one now than I was before. I'm learning the trade a little bit, but these two people allowed us to get smart really fast and allowed us to accelerate the business. I'm going to slip forward really quickly to the advisory, but I only stop on this because we're really in two separate marketplaces, but they're connected. We're artificial intelligence. Again, visual display, data analytics in real time, and something that came to us through retail, which is facial recognition. Why did it come through us through retail? Well, retailers want to know if Frank is in the store and Frank is a loyalty member, he's opted in, he's given consent to use his face as a loyalty component. Now when Frank walks down the aisle, instead of identifying him generically, 40-year-old male, happy, I can identify him as Frank. And I can deliver bespoke custom messages to Frank. Now it's the creepy stuff. Minority Report. Now I know what kind of car Frank drives. I know what kind of beverage he drinks. I know what kind of wine he likes. And I can deliver that uber hyper-targeted message to Frank as an individual. It requires an opt-in, but this is coming. And it's coming in retail. The brands are a little sketched out by it right now, but it's coming. They're not that worried about the metadata, the stuff I talked about before, which is de-identified and aggregated. We're not identifying it's Frank, we're just identifying what his demographic is. That's very valuable to a brand. Remembering, again, this analogy, we don't get that level of data on the internet. We get inference data. The internet has evolved to a point where all of that measurement metric is available and can draw conclusions, but those are inference conclusions. They're not actual conclusions. I'm using camera technology. I don't have to guess that Jacob's 25. My algorithms will tell me Jacob's 25. I said he was 35 earlier. It might be the facial hair. But he was delighted I said he was 35, so I'm not sure how that works. Sorry, I meant to mention the two people on our board that are going to help us in the security side. If you look at the evolution of our business, we're well underway on the retail side. And we're really, even though it's an obscenity, it's obscene to say, as a tiny little company, as a management team, we invested 3.3 of our own money to get through proof of concept, to get through the initial deployments. We felt that was necessary before we sort of understood the marketplace enough to articulate to external investors what the value proposition, what the opportunity might look like. But retail is well underway. And there's some unique strategies we have around retail. Security is trailing retail by 6 to 8 months, but here's the important point. It's the same plumbing. The same plumbing we use for retail can be used to identify, again, Frank in a crowd at a stadium or at a public transit location or at an airport hub. I can pick Frank out of a crowd with my cameras. And that's why right now we have a team of 5 people at an undisclosed location in the US that's doing security for a large sports stadium's draft. So this is the kind of thing we do. They're terrified because it's an unticketed event. You know, there's no way to know who's coming. So this is the kind of thing that freaks out the big boys. And this is why they deploy our type of technology to help them understand that. But these two people on my board, both ex-FBI guys, Jim DiOrio is known principally for his work with the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. As an aside, think of Safeway where somebody gets abducted, we can turn all the cameras into immediately looking for the person with a hot enrollment of an image. So there's a public safety angle to this, which is very valuable to our customers. So Jim helps us with that. And of course, Jeff Mueller, who's extremely senior, was seconded to Interpol under the Chemicals, Bioweapons, Radiological Directorate. He ran that directorate for a while. So you can imagine, the only point I'm making here is that I'm under no delusion as a CEO that we can get into these security conversations. They're like a club. And you need to be a member of that club to get into that conversation. And with these two guys, we get into that conversation every time. They're like, maybe an unfortunate reference, but they're like frat boys. You know, they all their lives they spend referring to one another and doing business with one another. If you look at all the major Fortune 500s, all of them now have a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. 9 times out of 10, that's an ex-3-letter agency guy. Secret Service, NSA, CIA, FBI. So this gets us in those conversations in a way that we would not have been able to get before. So this is a really busy slide. I'll tell you what's important about it. What's important, I think, is we are basically straddling two marketplaces which in and of themselves have enormous compound growth. Retail, I said before, digital placement in retail, and this is a real thing, is about 2% right now. All of that growth lies in front of us as an industry. Security itself, it starts high, much higher, but has a much higher compound growth rate. Sadly, Park Lawn, MGM, New Zealand, these tragedies just enhance the need for these sorts of capabilities. Not just facial recognition, but an innovation that we crafted and created and deployed last year, weapons detection. 500 different weapons, so we can classify them and alert on them. We can identify them if they're partially occluded or fully brandished. We can classify the type of weapon, long gun, assault weapon, knife, that sort of thing is very valuable. Think of houses of worship, think of malls, think of those sorts of environments where ideally we're performing a marketing monetization on the digital display, we're doing data analytics, and we're providing a security utility. So even though those markets seem sort of divorced from one another, there is connected tissue between all of them. And we don't position ourselves as a facial recognition company. It's a crowded space. We do, however, say we provide facial recognition as a utility on top of the other things we do. Here's the best way to remember it. We enter the marketplace. We enter the engagement through the marketing door. We tell a casino, where are the 25-year-old females on a Friday night? Are they at the craps table or are they at the blackjack table? Or are they playing slots? That kind of marketing information gathered up through our cameras and of course layered on with security capabilities is exactly how we position our product. What I like about this slide, the most important statistic on this slide, and it's a new statistic, is the fact that retailers, 79% of retailers will invest in vision analytics by 2021. Vision analytics come into two categories. One is marketing analytics. I want to know who's buying my product, who's responding to the shelf, who's getting the message from the digital delivery mechanism, whatever that is. But I also want to watch for loss prevention. It may be surprising to you, but someone that's about to commit shoplifting will have behaviors that can be detected by cameras. These same behaviors are not always detected by human beings. Cameras are better than we are. Artificial intelligence, is in many cases better than we are. Now we do something quite unique, well, not terribly unique, but terribly important. We know that the principal weakness of security systems today is that one guy, one gal, one person is looking at too many screens. How can you possibly be useful and capable when you're looking at that many screens? There's the very famous Ohio campus shooting in 2016 of October, where the bad guy got up to the top level of the parkade within view of 4 different CCTV cameras, and for 12 minutes loaded 4 weapons. Why did no operator see him? Well, the operator didn't see him because he's looking at 600 cameras that are on rotation. Our software can talk to 4, 40, 4,000, 40,000 cameras with no difficulty, and will alert the operator to something anomalous. Hey, I have an 81% certainty that this is Frank the bad guy, or I have an 80% certainty that this is an AK-47, or etc. So we believe there's an application for middleware in the security space that allows us to sell into systems that are already deployed. Uniqueness about us is we can talk to existing systems. We don't have to put brand new systems in. So I've kind of got ahead of myself, as I've done almost every meeting I've had, but retail, we've got the problem of no digital deployment in retail and a desperate need for digital in retail. I encourage you, if any of you have connections to any brands, ask them this question. If there was a channel, a media channel that you could buy in retail that was 10,000 stores or 50,000 stores or 100,000 stores, would you buy it? And they would say absolutely all day long they would buy it. So there's pent up demand right here that has not been addressed by the biggest players in the marketplace. And the security problem I think I just identified, which is too much information, too few resources. So how we do this is unit level economics. For the next 3 slides, I'm going to move at a little bit a faster pace, but just so I understand how we make money. We have 3 modules. This is the visual display module. We sell this by volume. We have 3 or 4 deals in the funnel right now that are way beyond these volumes, but so we'll cut a bespoke deal. We'll cut a custom deal for those ones. But the point is, we deliver these systems. This is the solution that actually manages all the visual display piece. Just to give you a sense of competitive matrix, that's a kind of a busy marketplace. We're sort of among 100 or so vendors that do content management systems. We do some unique things. We do interactive as well as non-interactive, so that puts us in sort of a less congested area, but it's a competitive marketplace. But that's not all we do. We sell in addition to that, oh, by the way, this particular solution, just so I get unit level economics, if we were to deploy 500 stores with 4 deployments per store, which is kind of a common mathematical equation, you would do something like $50,000 in SaaS revenue per month. So that kind of revenue, $500,000 a year. That's good revenue and not a very big deployment. There's probably 30 of those in the next 6 months in the US alone. The second module, really our most strategic module, for 2 reasons. One, we build our systems so that a competitor's content management system can be augmented by our analytics engine. We can plug into our competitors' systems, which means that even in a loss, we're not out of the game. We can go in and we can sell analytics. And what's really important is it's a completely different set of competitors. The people that compete with us on the content management side do not, in any instance, compete with us in the data collection side. There's alliances forming, vendor A working with vendor B to build a combined solution. To me, that's just demonstration that we've got it right. But we'll frequently hear from our customers that, I want one throat to choke. I want one vendor to supply both of these. So again, unit level economics, it's about the same. We license it for about the same, $500,000 a year in a 500 store deployment. Very, very common for us, or very common economics. The most expensive module, although the disclaimer is there's probably change afoot in this pricing model. And here's why. Many times we are deployed with our content management system, our data collection system, and this system. An example would be we're deployed at Atlanta Stadium, the football stadium. They're doing the visual display piece, Mercedes-Benz product, G550, E63, all Mercedes-Benz product. This is an exterior deployment around the stadium where visitors will come up and they'll interact with it. They'll take a picture with one of the players, a digital imprint of the player, but it's all Mercedes-Benz branded. So that's one component that consumes the one module. The second component is the data collection. The day after a Sunday football game, we'll get a call, or our people will get a call from them saying, okay, tell me what my analytics are the day before. So we can break down male, 28,000 females, 39,000 males, age range is this, average sentiment is this, average dwell time on device A versus device 10. That kind of information, never before available, at least in the stadium context. And the coup de grace is the 1,500 guys that have been kicked out of the facility being stupid and drunk over the lifetime of the facility. They're proactively located in the crowd before they enter the venue. So the security guy gets pacified because he's riding on top of an economic model that the marketing guy pays for, and he gets the security utility for almost nothing. Those three components makes us unique. The last point on this, we have competitors in CMS, a lot of them. Different set of competitors in data capture, our second module. Different entirely set of competitors in the third module, but nobody spanning all three. I'm not foolish enough to think that we'll sit in that unique rarefied ground forever, but we have it now. Last comment on Vector. Surprisingly, the size of deals that are coming to us on this, wanting this module only, are huge. And so I suspect that I don't want to be held accountable to this number, because I think we're going to have to go a little, there's a deal in Latin America for 10,000 cameras for a smart city implementation. Smart city is screens that deploy municipal information, provide data analytics, and provide also a security capability as well. It's 10,000 screens. They're not going to pay us $8 million a month in SaaS fees to make that happen. So we're going to have to be more aggressive on that. This is why I can be more aggressive. We have both a cloud architecture and an edge architecture. In the cloud, you consume compute, which you pay for, power, which you pay for, physical rack space, which you pay for, and you have the negative latency of going up to the cloud and back to the cloud. You have network issues. In last summer, we started an initiative with Intel after they had purchased a company that they wanted us to leverage. I can say leverage in Canada, or leverage, I'm not sure. I always get nailed by my US friends about using process or process. The point is that we've got this ability to go to the edge with all of our compute algorithms. We then eliminate the cost of the cloud, which in many cases from a cost of goods perspective is $10, $15, $20 per month per endpoint. So I have to sell up here in order to be profitable and deliver to you, to my shareholders, the kind of software EBITDA that you would expect, the software margin that you would expect. When I move to the edge, I've got cost of goods that are under $1. I have cost of goods that are lower than, I can sell at 75, 80% margin, lower than my competitors' cost of goods. I don't expect that to be a sustainable, pricing is rarely a sustainable advantage, but it is now. And it's delivered to us not because of some sleight of hand that we're doing on the books, but because of some architectural differences that we've been able to create. Real quickly, this is the fact that we engage from the beginning right through to the end. We concept with our customers, we design, we set and identify critical key performance indicators, we deploy proof of concept, and then we roll out the solution. And these are the groups of vendors that we've done this with so far. As I said before, we're not at a point where the marketplace is yet to be tested. Marketplace is tested. We're not at a point where the product is yet to be tested. That's done. We're now at a point where the market model and the market has been validated, and we're looking at key deployment milestones. So this is a really interesting slide, and I'll speak to it really briefly. And I know I'm conscious of time here. I am not making a claim that every one of these deals, which is our top 5 deals in our pipeline, we have 48, 49 deals in our pipeline at the moment, but our top 5 deals constitute a $200 million SaaS opportunity. I'm not suggesting that we're going to close every one of these deals, or that they will be as big as they initially are expected to be. But this does tell you a little bit about the type of momentum or opportunity that's in the addressable space. And I'll define them really quickly. Large integrated drug retailer in the US. There's 3 big ones. So it's one of those 3. And the deployment they're looking at is 4 activations per store. We'll be at this contract is about to be signed, but we'll be at run rate, and we've already deployed, so we're kind of behind. The contracting is behind deployment. But we'll be at about 300 to 400 units by the end of June, and that's a good deployment. And the objective is to get to 2,500 stores by the end of by the middle of the second year. These things happen slowly because they're complicated to deploy. We don't directly deploy them. That's really important to know. There's a field force that is separately remunerated, separately compensated, that does it on our behalf. So we're not in the middle of that supply chain. That's important. That's one. The second one is, there's 2 large C-stores in the world, C-store conglomerates. One's Montreal-based, Couche-Tard, and the other is Texas-based, 7-Eleven. It's one of those. And of course, they're suffering the significant problem of digital transformation. You have to ask yourself, or you might ask yourself, why do they care about digital transformation? Because brands want to buy placement, digital placement in store, and they want to buy it en masse. They don't want to buy 50 stores in South Jersey. They want to buy 50,000 stores worldwide. And there's very few entities, I'm talking about retail entities, that are in a position to provide that. They see this as an opportunity of a land grab. They can monetize their real estate. And so that's what they're preparing for right now. This is a really important deal for us. I'll do my best to describe it in a way that's understandable. In this marketplace, the early movers were the big brands. They buy innovation, they deploy innovation, they bankroll innovation. But they don't scale innovation. What they do is they validate it, they check it off, they say, this works for us. I have a 25% lift, all the data is great. Lift in the industry speak is I sell 25% more product, which of course is the ultimate measurement. All the rest of it is important, but peripheral. I sell 25% more products, so it's a legitimate deployment for me. So if you think about who's in the best position to accelerate that, brands want to buy network. They don't want to buy innovation. Not anymore, once they've proven it. So who's in the position to deploy network in retail? Well, the biggest retail in-store media company in the world is News America, News Corp. They have today 55,000 stores under contract. So that contract, it goes like this. Go to Albertsons, you say to Albertsons, we're going to pay you $30 million for 10-year exclusive in-store media. So everything that moves in the store that is media related is our business. That's the kind of business News America does. And they say, oh, we'll also pay you 20% of net. There ends up being no net. But they get that big check, and that's what retailers get driven by. This company, we've already announced a partnership with them. That partnership will get more integrated over time. And that is the most important thing we could do as an organization, because who's in the best position to accelerate adoption in retail? News America. There are others, but that's where our focus is in the moment. They have the dominant share of 80% market share in the US and Canada. I added these two because one of the things that I like to talk about is, I'm a software guy, lifelong software guy. I know how to make mistakes just as well as I know how to do things properly, hopefully, a little bit more on the latter than the former. But I know that when software companies go externally, it ends up being a significant drain on the organization, on the home office. You support international distribution, and it ends up being no ROI. And I've been in the position before where an investor will say to me, why are you doing this when you have so much at home that you need to take advantage of? We're not doing international partnerships in the old way. We're doing it in the new way. The old way is 20% gross margin. We'll support you. We'll go on sales calls with you. We'll do everything we need to do to get you technically up to speed. Let's rock and roll. We don't do that. We say, we're not going to give you 20%. We're going to give you 40%, which is unheard of in software as a service. It's very high margin. But here are the things you need to do prescriptively to be our partner. You need to provide technical services. You need to train up these people. You need to go on sales calls yourself. You need to come up to speed. That's why I can say legitimately our international partnerships do not drain the home office. And so we've got two that are cooking with gas right now, especially in the security marketplace. Mexico and South Africa, they're both unsafe countries. And we've happened to hit the right timing on both of those. So this next one here is an international deal, South Africa, large casino operator. We've just finished a pilot, and we expect to be announcing that if we win, and we could, and we should, next month or the month after. And then, of course, because we're a software company, we have the ability to plunk our product within other products as an OEM software, private label. That's exactly what we're doing in this last one. This is the largest security company in the world. I'm almost done. Some use cases. I've talked about them before, but this is the world's largest frozen food brand, Tyson Foods, $54 billion brand. We had an enormous success. It was March of 2017. We did March Madness, basketball related. This program was driven to lazy men. Remember, because it's digital signage with analytics, we can target our audience.
How can you tell who's lazy?
Pardon me?
How can you tell who's lazy?
Well, I'm just, yeah. Aren't we all? I mean, look. This was targeted at 20 to 40-year-old men that were watching the basketball and that were looking for something to eat that was really easy to eat. So it was interactive display on freezer, driven to frozen foods, and it was the highest performing program they'd ever had. I don't know about since, but certainly up until that time. Focused, 68% men, between 20 to 40. And of course, this one, CES, I'm not going to tell you who the Fortune 50 is because this is, security, being in the security business like Fight Club. You can't talk about it. But this is a large Fortune 50, one of the largest, it's a $1 trillion market cap company. And they had a $17 million booth at CES, and they did perimeter signage, so perimeter cameras. We looked for 250 guys that had represented a threat to the company. In addition to doing marketing analytics, we showed them how many people attended the event, how many males, how many females. If they went inside the booth, where did they go, where did they dwell, where did they spend their time, all that information, in addition to alerting on bad guys. We found 3 bad guys. And they were delighted. So we're going to do more of that. That was a very profitable engagement for us, 5-day event. So I'm almost at the end. I talked about this, so I won't talk about it anymore. Here's our cap structure, 76 million in basic. I'm very proud of the fact that around 41 million shares are held by insiders and management. That's atypical in a public company, and we're delighted to be able to say that. It has a lot to do with the fact that we wrote checks at the very beginning and converted those instruments into equity in the company. 81% of the common shares outstanding are subject to escrow and lockup conditions, so it's very tightly held. We went public on February 15th. We're trading, I checked about 3 hours ago, we're trading at about 58 cents a share, so $44 million market cap. Any questions on this? Usually it's retail people that give me questions on this. No? All right, so investment highlights. We're a world leader. I know it sounds obscene. We've spent, modest amount of money, comparatively speaking, on this to get where we are, but we think we're in a great position to take advantage of what's next. We are the first in the world to do weapons recognition with optical capability. We're doing more of that now. We're doing long range, which is really interesting. But that I think is a really important development initiative for us. We are among the folks that are transforming the retail industry. You can tell that by the partners that we not only have announced, but those we're about to announce. Highly notable management, I commented on that. 2019 objective is to roll out the visibility platform and service the pipeline. We're expecting 2 to 4 million in SaaS revenue in 19 in the current year, and my objective for 2020 is 20 million run rate. So SaaS has this ability to sort of, once you pour the foundation, it builds on itself. Scalability, of course, international partnerships, which I mentioned, and we're solution oriented. We are principally software, although we understand we have to do all components of the sales cycle, all components of the delivery mechanism, and we will, over time, exit each of those and become more and more of a pure SaaS play. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
How does the system take care of false positives from the security side? Because I'm just thinking if you have 600 or 700 cameras, there's probably going to be maybe, they see something under a coat and it's not an actual
Great question.
And then they're trying to...
So nothing pisses off security personnel more than false positives.
Yeah.
They just stop paying attention. So we have the ability to set parameters on the software, and we don't deliver yes, this is Matt, or yes, this is Jacob. It's not that binary. We say, or the software says, 73% confidence that this is Jacob. The operator makes the decision, intervene, don't intervene. So we don't actually participate in the false positive conversation because we don't make a judgment that way. Right, and that's parameter set. So if somebody bad got through, I may want to lower my threshold. I may want to lower my alert threshold. We've seen that. Sometimes there's environmental factors, bright lights, backlit, that kind of thing kind of messes up cameras a little bit. So we can mess with that in the field, and we would do that as a process of tuning the deployment as we go. But that kills the deployment right there.
I could imagine,
Yeah.
The bells and whistles are all buzzing, and they all end up being,
Not the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
If I do opt in on
Yeah.
this, and I'm shopping, I'm going to stores,
Yeah.
and you're recognizing just my patterns, or are you?
No, we're recognizing your face, your identity.
My identity, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you've got that data. What do you do with that data? Who has access to that data? Under what circumstances could you hand over that data?
Yeah. So far, in every contract we've done, and some of them have been close, we've managed to hang on to that data. I think you've correctly perceived that data is gold. As we deploy to more and more endpoints, let's say we're 250,000 endpoints out there, that data collected across the major markets in the US, unbelievable value. Tens of millions, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars of value right there. So we hang on to that data wherever we can. In the worst case scenario, we co-own the data. If we're deploying for a brand, the brand gets their data. They don't own it, they just get access to it. And we get access to it in an aggregated, de-identified form. So unless there's an opt-in, which is usually governed by space or location, we'll capture it within that location, and then we make it more generic. So your opt-in can be isolated to a specific Loblaws, as an example. So some of that stuff's evolving right now. The question you've asked is a confluence of your own personal preference and privacy information that's going on. Canada looks like we're following the European model, which is very, very aggressive, very pro-privacy, which doesn't put us out of business. It just governs the rules that we have to function by. And a lot of it has to do with notice. You need to be noticed. In the store, you'll see a notice that says you're under surveillance or you're marketing analytics or words to that effect. Right. But your data does not become me. Your consent gives me bounded consent, if you know what I mean by that. Right. Now, I would offer editorial comment time. There's a couple of big companies out of California that have messed it up for the rest of us really badly. So we got to recover from that as an industry before we get carte blanche and we're able to do this. There's a few cowboys that have done some things that we don't like.
I've personally never seen a company do what you're doing. Who else is doing this?
Great question. We have 3 modules: content management, data collection, and analytics, and Vector, which is a security piece. We're the only company, to my knowledge, participating in each of those markets, and we're able to offer a single enterprise level software across all 3. We have competitors in content management, got to be 100 of them. We've got 2 or 3 noteworthy ones on the data analytics side, which we're very closely paying attention to, because that's our standard bearer. And on the security side, there's a lot of companies, but none of them, we don't talk about ourselves as a facial recognition company. None of the companies that are in each of those categories have yet understood the need to do products in the other categories, if you follow what I'm saying. There's some alarming alliances that are occurring, not alarming, but just something to watch. Alliances that are occurring between vendors in each of those categories that we're paying close attention to. But even if that's the case, customers don't want to buy from multiple vendors if they have the option to buy from one. We've seen that like real time. It's happening every day. So we just got to pay attention. Speed in our business trumps everything. You just got to move quickly and innovate and keep moving the target.
We have a question from one of our online viewers.
Sure.
So on large deployments, you will have a visible backlog. For example, let's say 2 years. Will you give backlog insights going forward?
When I have backlog, nothing will delight me more than to talk about it. And I think that's part of my responsibility. Because, there's bookings, cash flow, and then there's backlog. And I want to be able to talk about backlog. We don't have a ton of backlog. We have a little bit of backlog right now, but as the company grows, there'll be more and more backlog. And I think to paint the full picture, you have to talk about your backlog. Revenue recognition aside, which is the reason why there is backlog, then yes, we'll talk about backlog. Yeah.
Are there significant capital expenditures that you need to make on a go-forward basis?
I had the one slide up there that I'll flip to real quickly. And I'm just going to make a practical comment. If any of these land at the time I expect them to land, or if they all land, or a few of them land at once, I'm going to have to staff up. Because what's most important to me is flawless execution. If you, forgive me, if you crap the bed in this business, you're done. You're a pariah. Forget about it. We won't do that. We can't do that. So if I have to over expense in order to execute perfectly, I will do that. So that's kind of maybe a crappy way to answer the question, but the truth is it's variable. It's all driven by the business.
Right. Is there anything else you're cooking up from an R&D perspective?
Always working on R&D. There's 11 of our 20 people are committed to R&D, so we are heavyweight on R&D. Yes, think of crowd behavior, analyzing a crowd en masse. This particular crowd, the 22,000 people, is getting restless. This particular area of the crowd is getting more restless than this area of the crowd. Think of that area. Object detection in retail is also be able to recognize when product is pulled from the shelf and be able to connect that to inventory management. These are areas that we're utilizing our core infrastructure, which is computer vision and machine learning, to do those sorts of things. So yes, more to come there, but nothing that would be a bubble in terms of its overall impact on the spend.
And my final question is, are you subject to any licensing or regulatory oversight that you have to be accredited to? Or
None. There's the prospect of some in the future. There may be controls asserted on export licenses for security-based software.
What's your view on that? Is that a good thing for your industry?
It's a good thing. This industry is desperate for guidance because it's the Wild West right now. And Microsoft is making noise about it. Amazon's made some enormous mistakes in the category, which has messed it up for the rest of us. So to keep that thing from happening again, the Amazon or Google or Facebook type phenomenon, to keep that from happening again, we need governance. So we actually employ a company out of DC, which is a lobby group, and their principal mission is to create guidance.
So what department would that be? Would it be the Department of Commerce in the US? Or
It's either Commerce or FTC. It's not really, maybe both, right? Because it's internet, it touches the internet, but it's probably more commerce.
And the Canadians view it or take the same approach?
Canadians are following Europe.
Right.
And we know Europe intimately, and we'll be certified with Europe probably by the end of next month. GDPR, the European equivalent to the privacy governance, is less about architectural modifications and more about certification. So we have the great benefit of paying a bunch of lawyers a bunch of money to get certified, but no architectural changes have been required. We've been compliant from day one. But we can't sell, or at least we can sell, but we run the risk of being offside. That's why we need the certification. We'll have that by the end of June at the latest. So we have a pent-up demand in Europe that we're not comfortable satisfying until that's done.
Right. And all your intellectual property is owned by the company?
If you were to do a pie chart, no company can make that claim, by the way. No company. If you were to do a pie chart, about 96 to 98% of it is owned by us. There are some external pieces that we just made the build or buy decision.
So like a licensing agreement?
No, just more like component pieces of software that go into our software. Late breaking news. Actually, no, I won't say that. We have a couple of patents that are in the USPO right now, and we're very hopeful that very, very soon we'll get some good news on those. But I'm a software guy, and I don't necessarily like patents, just to be clear about it. Software guys don't like patents. They're like Google Maps for our competitors. So they make investors feel okay, but I don't really dig them a whole lot.
Thank you. Do you have another question?
So can you highlight individuals with hoodies or baseball hats and sunglasses that would be of security interest?
As of this moment, no. But that's a great example of what's in our development pipeline. When we're doing crowd management, crowd analytics, that's the kind of thing. Now, having said that, those are generally done on a forensic basis. So we'll interface to what's called a VMS, a video management system, and we can build machine models on the fly that look for red backpack or look for red ball cap or black backpack. No problem. We're going to make that part of our mainline code. It's not now. It sits in our custom development category at the moment. But yes, that's a great example of how we would use machine learning and machine learning models.
Perfect. And there's a second part.
So China is able to identify individuals with the cadence of their walking.
Yeah, gait analysis. It's crazy. We're not doing that right now. It's a really interesting challenge, and it is definitely the same technology, optical and AI. If you're a startup and you're building surveillance systems, facial recognition and others, China is the best place to be because the objective of the state is to have 100% 24/7 surveillance. So they're going to lead, without doubt. They're going to lead the category. This particular company, the biggest player in China, 600 PhDs on payroll. But I'll tell you what will happen. Nobody's going to export the Chinese product. Well, there are friendly nations that may use the Chinese product, but you'll never see it in most Western nations. Just because there's concern about backdoors, and there's already been a couple of examples. Hikvision, as an example, a big camera company out of China that has been banned from sale in the US because backdoors were discovered in their technology. So this is just a trust thing. It's just not going to happen, I don't think.
That's it. Anyone else?
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.